Welcome back into this edition of One-on-One Sports, our special holiday edition, where today we will be talking about the NFL,
college basketball,
and college football. And it all starts right now. And now on to the quick hitters, where today we're going to start it in hockey. My Penguins, Tristan Jarry, big goalie goal last night.
Yeah, goalie goal. We were sitting on the couch watching it, not really paying attention, and then he goes ahead and flips it in. I mean, that was pretty
we had an open net, just flicks it in. First time for the Penguins franchise.
Yeah.
First, now he's the second goalie to score an AHL and an NHL goal. The other guy was Chris Masson with the Preds. So,
impressive.
Breaking history to last night.
It really is.
All right, and from the ice with the Tristan Jarry goal to the NBA midseason tournament, we're on to eliminations now. What do we got?
Yeah, we've talked about the midseason tournament a lot on this show. We're now done with pool play and on to single elimination games, knockout round. Out west, we've got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the LA Lakers facing off against the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Anything can happen in one game. And then another matchup we got out west is the Sacramento Kings and the Pelicans. Pelicans kind of upset my Denver Nuggets in that round.
They did a little bit. They did.
They do have the ugliest court, though, so
that is true.
It doesn't really matter. Then out east, we've got your Boston Celtics.
Yes, sir. Go C's.
And then we've also got the Bucks and the Knicks, and then the Celtics facing off against the Pacers. Those winners of all those games will face off in Las Vegas. A spot where potentially an NBA team could be going. We know the Oakland Athletics are going there.
Absolutely.
So they're trying to grow sports in Vegas. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it should be fun. And from that, we're going to keep it with a little basketball. We got Elon basketball. Played Warren Wilson last night, put 127 up, broke a school record. Actually broke two school records.
Oh, yeah. So very impressive. I mean, Warren Wilson, Division III school.
Exactly.
But it was just fun. And then Elon basketball also had SportsCenter top
that
one
is
play.
True. Yeah, we had the top one play. Big shot Bob.
Rob Higgins getting that buzzer beater to win.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun night for Elon basketball last night. And now, moving from the the court to some golf, we got Tiger Woods coming back.
Yeah.
Coming back at the Heroes Challenge after plantar fasciitis, which, add it to the list of injuries Tiger Woods has had. But that took him out of the 2023 Masters, so he is back this weekend. Last time I checked, he got 4 under on his round today, so that's not too bad. And, to round off the quick hitters, we got where's Ohtani going, Harry?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on in the baseball world right now. Free agency's been a little slow, but the big one everyone's wondering is where Ohtani will go. You got to think it's a big market team, New York, San Francisco. I have heard the Mets are kind of out of it now. But, I think Giants right now is the
Giants.
top.
I've heard Cubs sprinkled
Cubs
out.
have been in there. It's really going to be who wants to pay him, especially with his injuries. But, whoever gets him is going to get one.
It's definitely going to be a very, very large paycheck that I wish I got one day.
Yeah, that would be great if I could get paid nearly as close as Ohtani.
Yeah, and that's all that we have for the quick hitters today. Next up is going to be the NFL.
We did good. That was a.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
That's all that we got for today for our quick hitters. Next up is going to be the NFL. Welcome back in. Today I got Chase, I got Jacob, and we're going to talk about the NFL. Chase, start me off with some surprising teams from this season.
Well, when it comes to surprising teams, there's one team in the NFL that is undefeated. And you might say, Chase, how is it surprising that is your surprise team? Well, that's because my surprise team is the NFL referees. They have 19 penalties in their previous game against the Cowboys versus Seahawks. They actually allowed Al Michaels to show emotion about a subject for once. And if that's not an all-time performance, I don't know what is. And there also impact betting lines. And when you look at the news surrounding the NFL, people are now betting depending on who is the referee of the game. But to get into my serious answer for the surprise team, well, it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. First 400-yard game in 3 years. First time. No Matt Canada. He's gone. Kaput. And they are in a perfect spot to slide on in there and win the division.
Okay, that's a interesting take. I love the referees. The Steelers, not sure about,
7-4.
better than my 2-9 Patriots or 2-8 Patriots. So I can't really talk to you on that one. For you, Jacob, what do we got for the surprising teams?
Well, I feel like mine's a more serious pick. The Houston Texans are my surprise team. Going into the season, I did not believe in C.J. Stroud. As an Ohio State quarterback, they're known not to succeed. Well, he's broken the curse. C.J. Stroud is on pace to not only win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he's a realistic shot at the NFL MVP. And him and Tank Dell are one of the best rookie duos of all time. And the defense is starting to build itself up too. Will Anderson, don't forget, he was a top draft pick too. Blake Cashman's come in, and he's one of the top-rated linebackers in the NFL. And now Derek Stingley, ever since coming back from injury, he's come into his own. So I got the Houston Texans.
All right, so we got the Texans, we got the Steelers. A possible playoff, maybe Super Bowl matchup? Something special?
Hopefully it goes a little bit better than their first matchup. But I just think now with no Matt Canada in Pittsburgh, there's nothing stopping this team. Kenny Pickett looks like an actual quarterback. It's fantastic. It's a surprise, and I think they can go a very long way.
Could we go as far as saying as the new Ben Roethlisberger?
Ooh. Well, Big Ben was a fine quarterback for many years, and Kenny Pickett has been the exact opposite of that. So it might take a couple games, but I do think he has the pieces around him. Deontay Johnson gives up halfway through plays, and George Pickens might be out of here in a month. But, I think with those two guys, they can go a really long way.
Don't forget about Najee Harris eating himself out of the league.
Najee Harris looks like he struggles every time he goes into second gear. And, Jaylen Warren, he's Jaylen Warren, and he is the best player on offense.
He's an angry guy. He's angry.
He's an angry runner.
And it's good to see the Texans back in it. I know they've kind of floated into nothingness for the past couple of years, but
they've been trying to lose football games
absolutely
for the past 2 seasons, hiring David Coley for no reason at all, and then firing him after a year, and then doing the same thing with Lovie Smith. Don't understand those hirings, but they just wanted to lose and get higher draft picks. They made a big trade with the Cardinals to trade back up, and it's turned them into a successful franchise after the laughingstock of Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. Next on the docket, Super Bowl matchups. What do we got, Chase?
Well, personally, I have a rematch between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Another Kelsey Bowl, which I'm sure.
Is Taylor Swift going to be there is the question?
She has to be.
Absolutely.
They might have to kick out. I think it's Usher doing the halftime.
Yeah. I'll take Taylor.
They can tell Usher to take his ball and play somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely.
Taylor Swift's getting the halftime show. But seriously, I think the script writers will love this. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And the way the refs have been playing, they can make anything happen. So I see a rematch. But realistically, I think on either side, AFC, NFC, these are the two teams that are going to come out on top. And I think there's only a couple teams that can maybe stand in their way, and I think you've got one of them. But realistically, I think these are the two teams with the star power to go all the way.
So he's got a rematch. What are we talking about, Jacob?
So go back to what you said. Swift does hurt Kelsey. But on another note, I got the 49ers against the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs, they look like one of the most stable franchises out there. They've had some tough losses this year, but it's all very one-score games against the Lions and the Eagles. I think that the 49ers, though, are going to be that team to dethrone the Eagles. Unfortunately, last year, Brock Purdy got hurt, and now they traded for a guy like Chase Young, and playing him next to Nick Bosa is a very scary duo. And that offense, they're as efficient as it comes. With Brock Purdy playing the best football of his career, even though it's only been 2 seasons, he's still getting better. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the NFL. Deebo Samuel can do everything on offense. I mean, you got Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. They have the best left tackle in the league. I don't see where this team goes wrong and how they lose.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. We got a flag on the play. Okay.
Flag on the play.
Okay, what do we got, Chase? What's the flag on the play?
I'm going to argue with you on the pass rush because, yes, I think that's one of the biggest things that the 49ers have over the Eagles. But the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line. They've been able to run the tush-push all season long. You don't see nobody else doing the tush-push as effectively as the Eagles. I think when it comes down to it, you say they only have won close games. I think for me, it doesn't matter how you're winning games as long as you're winning them. And the Eagles have the best record apart from the NFL referees
absolutely
in the entire league. And I just think that when it comes down to it, we might see Jalen Hurts, and we'll get into this with the MVP conversation. Jalen Hurts is able to take over games in ways that Brock Purdy's not able to. Nothing from Brock Purdy has shown me that, Brock Purdy can take the 49ers a long way. And so I think when it comes down to it, I see Philly going all the way.
Are we going to review the challenge? Or
I am going to review it because Brock Purdy is still the only quarterback in the NFL with a perfect passer rating in a single game. And about that pass rush, I mean, there's still more to it. You forgot about Javon Hargrave. And then leading the linebackers is Fred Warner. And they still have Dre Greenlaw, who was practically first-team All-Pro last year. That tandem is unbelievable.
I love that front seven. I think the Eagles have them be in the secondary department, I think, especially with the injury to their safety, the 49ers. But, with the weapons for the 49ers and with Brock Purdy, there's a lot of questions about injuries and what happened last season with the injuries to Debo and then to George Kittle and then Brock Purdy there at the end. It's the stability and then just the Kyle Shanahan of it all. He's the leader of this offense, whether you like it or not, from the coaching point, and he just always seems to lack in those big games.
Alrighty. Well, we got his foul. We got your challenge. We're going to have to go back to New York for the official review, but we're going to move on to the MVP pick. Chase, what you got for me?
Well, as I alluded to before, I think Jalen Hurts is riding his way to his MVP. I think a lot of the gripes that people have are the fact that a lot of his touchdowns have come from the tush-push, but again, same way where I will say, as long as you're winning games, I don't care how you're doing it, I will say the same thing about touchdowns and yards. People had the same conversations about Lamar Jackson when he won his MVP, same thing with Cam Newton. It's these dual-threat quarterbacks that people don't always love, especially the media and the voters. But when it comes to Jalen Hurts, he's the best player on the best team, leading them to the best record in the NFL. He's got the same amount of rushing touchdowns as Christian McCaffrey. He's up there in passing yards and passing touchdowns. And I just think that when it comes down to it, you look at all those factors, not just the passing statistics. Jalen Hurts is my favorite to win the award.
All right, so we got Jalen Hurts. What do we got for you, Jacob?
But you forgot to mention his turnovers and how he's second in the league in turnovers behind Josh Allen. But I'm actually going to go in a different route here. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. He's putting up an historic season so far, and if he continues to this pace, he will break Calvin Johnson's record. And to me, I don't see why a wide receiver can't get this award. He's single-handedly leading this team to the playoffs with all the injuries they've had on defense and everything. I think Tyreek Hill should be the first wide receiver since Jerry Rice to get some MVP consideration and be in that race.
I definitely think that Tyreek Hill deserves to be in that conversation, and I agree that it is a quarterback award, and that's the exact reason why I think Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy or C.J. Stroud will end up winning this award, because I think at the end of the day, the quarterbacks just get all the love. But I agree that if anybody else that wasn't a quarterback were to win this award, I think Tyreek Hill is the obvious choice.
Alrighty, so we got Jalen Hurts, and we got your pick. So that's shit. Let me run that back. What was your pick?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, thank you. Run it from the outro. Count me down, question mark?
Yeah.
All right. Alrighty, so we got Jalen Hurts, we got Tyreek Hill, and we got a flag on the play for that one. So should be interesting, should be a fun way to wrap up the season. Personally, I think, Bailey Zappi's up there in the, favors for the MVP, but, we'll have to see what the writers say.
It's gotten so bad in New England that when they were promoting the Steelers and Patriots Thursday night matchup next week,
they put Bill Belichick
They
up
put
there.
T.J. Watt against Bill Belichick. Now, I don't know. I know Bill Belichick's a good coach, but I don't know about his blocking abilities in the passing game, so we'll have to see.
I don't know. I think he could run through your Steelers. That's just my personal
He-
Don't forget about Tommy DeVito, though.
He's a unit of a guy.
Yeah.
DeVito and Belichick.
Should be a fun way to wrap up the season. But up next, we're going to throw to to college basketball.
From the football field to the basketball court, we're going to be talking about college hoops today. I'm here with Caden Strickland and Jack Marcus. Caden, let's start with you. I know it's a little bit early. Who do you have for that Final Four?
Well, it's very early indeed, just December 1st right now. So, anything can happen from here to there. But, I'm going to start off. I think this is a pretty safe pick for the Final Four, but I have UConn. UConn's riding a 13-game win streak since last March, biggest win streak in the country going on. I have Kansas making it to the Final Four, along with Kentucky, and bit of a wild card. I'm going with the Rams of Colorado State.
All right, I like to see
there's always a sleeper team makes a run. I think the Rams get it done this year.
Jack, how about you?
You know, I concur with your UConn pick. I think that the fact that it's the 13-game win streak is kind of silly because, yes, they're the only team that won the championship last year, so of course they're going to have the longest win streak. But the Colorado State pick is interesting to me. My sleeper pick has got to be Creighton right now. Yes, they're in the top 25, but I think that they are the sleeper. Yes, they did just lose to Colorado State, but Creighton has been up there at the top for a number of years, and I think this is the year that they're going to make a run, along with I'm going to try not to have too much Duke bias in this segment. I'm sorry if I do, but I think Duke's got it. Yes, they've lost 2 games already, but I think it's important to lose early. I never like to be in the number 1 until it's February or March because you're going to lose if you've got that big target on your back. And then finally, I think I've got Kansas. And I think that Kansas, we saw them last year. We saw the run that they made. They've started really strong. Hunter Dickinson is really good. He was a very important addition to this team. You love to see transfers go into big schools. And so I think that it's going to be a fun next 4 months. My favorite time of the year for sure.
You know, obviously I already said I agree with you with Kansas and UConn. Duke, don't really have much of a problem with that, but I mean, I don't really trust John Shire that much. Hasn't really showed me much. It's only been 1 season, but I mean,
that's fighting words for Jack.
I mean, yeah, I know, but yeah, can't replace the legacy of Coach K right off the bat.
Yeah.
I do have a problem, however, with Creighton. You said they just lost to Colorado State. That does not do them justice. They got blown out by Colorado State. I know it was at a neutral site, but it was like 3 hours from Creighton. It was filled with Creighton fans. Yeah, it was 20-plus points. Yeah, Colorado State, I like them a lot. Isaiah Stevens, their point guard, he's the best player you've never heard of, averaging 18 and 8 right now off unbelievable efficiency, shooting 50% from 3, 56% from the field. Yeah, he's having a very good season, and yeah.
Just won the Rocky Mountain Showdown too, so they've got a lot of momentum.
Yeah. Rocky Mountain Showdown only means so much because how good is Colorado at basketball?
Yeah.
They're not
They're
good
a little
at football
overhyped
either.
in all
So
sports.
yeah. And yes, it was a neutral site game, and they got blown out, which is, I think, for Creighton the worst part about it because it was a neutral site that was pretty close to home because you got to win at neutral sites when it comes to March. But I think that Creighton has made those last things. Another spot that I think could fit in instead of Creighton, maybe instead of Kansas, is Marquette. Marquette has had some big years with Shaka Smart. They had a big year last year. What are they, 3 right now in the AP poll? I think that all of these teams have got time to go, and I think that the Colorado State, they're just going to fall off. What are they, 22 right now or something, 17, something like that?
20 if I'm not mistaken.
And I think that they've got a lot of hype right now because they've won big games so far, and I don't think that's going to keep up.
Like you said, it's really hard to tell. It's December 1st. Come on, man. What are we even doing picking teams in March?
I mean, UNC could not make the tournament again, which would be amazing.
Literally anything could happen.
Anything could happen. The standings and the polls are going to look very different when we come to March. But we've talked about teams that we think are going to make it far. Let's talk about some teams that are maybe higher in the polls right now, but who you all think are going to fall down. What do we got for pretenders, Caden?
Well, the easy pick here would probably be Purdue, but I want to go in a different direction. Arizona right now is ranked 2nd in the country. They have one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. They're averaging 95 points a game. They have 6 players averaging double digits so far this season, but I think the real weak point in this roster and what will be their downfall in March is Caleb Love. This kid is a black hole, averaging 13 points per game off under 40% shooting, 25% from 3. This dude is a shot chucker. I can't stand to watch that guy. We saw what happened with North Carolina. The wheels are just going to fall off.
Yeah, I am going to take the easy pick. Like you said, I am going to take Purdue here. I fully agree with your Arizona pick. Maybe it's because they beat Duke, and I don't think they should have. And they beat Duke because of Caleb Love, which hurt even more because he was beating us at Carolina, and he was beating us now at Arizona. And that's his only big game he's had so far this season. He was throwing up shots, and he was making them all because he loves Cameron Indoor. And I think that Purdue, if any team's going to lose to a high-seeded team in March, it's going to be Purdue. We've seen it year in year. Losing to a 13 as a 4. There's 3 years in a row, I believe, losing to 13 or more as a 4 or below seed. And you just can't depend on Zach Edey for only so long. I don't think that Zach Edey's going to have his numbers like he had last year?
Look, Jack, as much as I want to argue with you here, I'm right on board. Zach Edey, like, yeah, he plays great in the regular season. This kid is so soft.
Yeah.
Like, we saw FDU didn't have a single player over 6'6". What is Edey, like 7'5" or something? He couldn't make a layup. Like, what are we doing, man?
I mean, you're almost at the basket at that point.
Yeah. Also, I just don't think that Purdue's play style contributes to winning, especially in March. College basketball is in an era that's dominated by guards, and they just don't have that strong guard play that I think can make them, or at least help them make a deep run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Purdue is got a lot of weak spots, like you said, and are just those gonna keep being shown brightly through March and the play that is March.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about teams, but how about players? I've gone with Caden these last 2 times. So, Jack, I'm going to start with you. Who is your player of the year in college basketball, player that's going to lead their team to potential victory?
I'm going to take the ACC Rookie of the Year from last year, Kyle Filipowski. I think for Duke, again, Duke bias, but one of the biggest recruits that John Shire has had in his first 2 years was Kyle Filipowski, and that was getting him to come back. Duke is strong because they've got those sophomores. We haven't had sophomores in a while at Duke University, and I think it's having Kyle being that big man in the center is going to really do it. I think he can match Zach Edey all the way through, and without him getting injured in March last year, I think we could have gone much farther, and I think he's got the makings to become the best player of the year.
I don't hate the pick. I don't like the situation that he's in. There's too many mouths to feed at Duke. I don't think he's going to score enough to get Major Player of the Year votes. My pick is Hunter Dickinson, 7'2" big man from Kansas. We talked about him a little bit earlier, averaging 21 and 12 so far this season. Just monster numbers from this guy. But the best thing that Bill Self did was to go get him from Michigan. These guys are a perfect marriage together. Self's best teams all come when they have a dominant force on the interior. Hunter Dickinson brings that. They have 2 of the best passers in the country to give him the rock with Dejon Harris and Kevin McCullough. But he's just in a really good position to succeed, and I think Kansas is going to be a super high seed this year.
Yeah, I think Kansas was the best place for Hunter Dickinson, but if they're listing him as 7'2", they're lying somehow. I think he's a 4 at the most, and he's a 4 playing as a 5. And I think Kyle Filipowski can match up just like that with Zach Edey. He can match with Hunter Dickinson. I think the best part about him is that he's physical, and we saw that in his Michigan days, and now he's bringing that to Kansas. But the too many mouths to feed, I think, is just this first few games of John Shire in his second season. He had 4 freshmen coming in and 4 returners. And so he had to get those people in. We've seen a couple more people coming in for 6 minutes and making threes. But without Kyle Filipowski, there was no game in Arkansas Duke earlier this week. Kyle and Jeremy Roach had 48 of the 75 points on the entire team.
Yeah, clearly he's the best player on the team. He should be getting more shots up. It's just a matter of I don't think that this offense that Shire runs is. I mean, everybody eats in that offense, and I just don't think he'll score enough. He's going to be a super high draft pick in the NBA. He's clearly one of the best players in the country, but I mean, I just don't think he will be able to score enough this season. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the only thing that scares me about that pick is his foul trouble. Right, had to sit only played 12 minutes in the first half, less fast game, and I think we see that with most big men, especially young big men. Zach Edey is able to stay away from it pretty impressively, but I don't think he keeps his. I'm glad that you just didn't pick Zach Edey, if we're being honest.
I'm glad you didn't pick him too. I'm just gonna be straight up. I don't like the guy.
Well, thank you, Caden. Thank you, Jack. Should be a great college basketball season. Speaking of seasons, the season of giving, and we're going to be giving you college football next on 101 Sports.
Welcome back into this episode of One on One. Today we'll be wrapping it up with some college football. I've got Bryson. I've got Jack. Bryson, I'm going to start off with you. SEC Championship. Huge game. Huge outcomes, possibly. What do you got for it?
This kind of hurts to say as a Tennessee fan, but I'm going to pick the Crimson Tide of Alabama to win the SEC championship.
Obama.
Now, they definitely struggled to begin the season, obviously, with that loss against Texas. However, they've looked very, very strong these past few weeks, except for the Iron Bowl. However, that game against Auburn has been an anomaly on multiple occasions, like we saw both in 2019 and especially in 2017, when they lost to Auburn, but then went on to win the national championship anyways. They've looked good offensively, averaging 409 yards per game, which they've only allowed 315 yards or 313 yards a game, most sacks in the SEC, a +7 turnover margin on the year. And I think the other big difference is it's hard to beat Alabama twice. You got to remember, Alabama and Georgia did not play each other last year. The last time they played was in the 2021 SEC championship game. And I just think Alabama is going to have revenge in their hearts, and I think that they're not going to allow Georgia to beat them twice.
All right, so Bryson's got my Tide. I like that pick. Big fan. What do we got for you?
I like the Tide too, but I can't bet on the Tide this time. Georgia, they're just too good. I mean, they're the number one for a reason. People like to say it's a little fraudulent, but like I said, they're number one for a reason. Carson Beck's playing well. Lad McConkey, one of the top NFL draft prospects at receiver. I like him a lot. And I like Jalen Milroe. I think it's going to be a really close game. I really do. But I can't see Bama beating Georgia, man.
I mean, but looking at how Georgia played last week against Georgia Tech, yes, they did ultimately kind of pull away in the third quarter, but they struggled at times, and Georgia Tech kind of made a little bit of a comeback there at the end, whereas Alabama, outside of that game against Auburn, they've been consistent. 3 wins over top 25 teams. All of them were by double digits. I think Georgia or Alabama has played a tougher strength of schedule overall, but I just think that Georgia has not played that tough of a non-conference schedule. So for that reason, I think that Alabama ultimately wins over Georgia.
All right, so we got Bama, we got Georgia. Should be a great game. I don't know if my heart is going to be able to survive the game, but we'll see. Saturday, 3 p.m. I know I'll be on my couch. I know you guys will be. Should be a really good game. Next up, we got the FSU Louisville for the ACC Championship. Jack, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do we got?
FSU. I mean, Louisville just lost to Kentucky. I am not confident in Louisville at all. Honestly, I think of myself as a Louisville hater. I don't like Louisville at all. I don't think they're that good of a football team. And FSU, they just lost Travis Hunter. Yes, or not Travis Hunter. I'm sorry, Jordan Travis. My apology. But Tate Rodemaker is. I believe in him. I think FSU is talented enough to be able to still win this game.
I absolutely agree with that, actually. Louisville has started to really struggle. You got to remember, not only did they lose to Kentucky, but they also struggled against Virginia and an underperforming Miami team. That earlier loss to Pitt early on in the season also does not look good at all for them. But then on top of that, I do agree with you that Rodemaker actually can ultimately step up in that starting role. Yes, he looked a bit awkward early on in that Florida game. However, he really settled into the role that second half. Even though it may not show it on the stat line overall, I think it's important to note that going into Gainesville in a big rivalry game like that with your first start of the season, that's hard for anyone to really do well. And I think he did a good job of leading that Florida State offense that has consistently been at the top of the ACC this year.
Yeah, so we got both of you guys are on FSU. Big implications again. If Louisville, gets those revenge, we could see FSU knocked out because they're number 4. Should be another great game. Our final big matchup, we got number 5 Oregon versus number 3 Washington. Bryson, we'll start with you on this one. What's the Pac-12 championship going to look like?
I think Oregon, honestly. Oregon is second in the entire nation in scoring, also in total yardage overall. But I think you got to remember that when they played Washington, Oregon dominated them in basically every single statistic. Total yardage, time of possession, total first downs. It was just they turned the ball over 3 times on 4th down. They went 0 for 3 on 4th down, 2 of those times being inside Washington's 10. And despite that, they were still only a couple feet away from ultimately tying the game with that missed 42-yard field goal to send it into overtime. And so I think Oregon just overall played a better game last time out against Washington. It's just that they could not convert when they really needed to on 4th down.
All right, he's got the Ducks. Who are you going with?
Still going with the O. I think the Ducks are going to blow them out of the water, with all due respect. I like Rome Odunze and I like Michael Penix. That combination is great. I think Odunze is kind of like Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen mixed type of player. I'm really excited to see what he does at the next level. However, Washington, their margin of victory since that Oregon game, the most they've beaten a team by is 10 points, when Oregon has lost or has beaten every team more than that besides USC. So USC lost to Oregon by 9 while Washington beat them by 10. But Oregon's been blowing teams out of the water. Washington has been in one-possession games for every single one of the games since that Oregon game. I don't like it. Washington's going in a back direction. Oregon's moving forward. I can't not go with the Ducks here.
It'll definitely be a fun matchup. Another big implication is Washington's 3 and Oregon's 5. I could definitely foresee some interesting mix-ups with the top 4 getting into the college football playoffs. So, kind of one last question for both of you. No, you didn't prepare this, but who do we think winning it all total? Kind of this college football playoffs, Bryson. Quick, 1-minute answer.
This is going to be interesting because I literally just predicted them to lose, but I think it'll be Georgia. I think Georgia will lose in the SEC championship ultimately. And even though that'll probably put them at a 3 or a 4 seed in the college football playoffs, I think they'll ultimately come back with a vengeance. And a very similar situation will happen where they ultimately beat Alabama or another team in the playoffs.
All right, he's got Georgia. Quick 1-minute answer. Who do we got?
Honestly, I'm going to get bold here. Oregon. I think Oregon wins. I love Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. He is first in the college football with passer rating and first in completion percentage, first in passing yards, actually second in passer rating. Second in pass rating, first in completion percentage, first in passing yards. I love Bucky Irving. I think he's a very great back. It reminds me a little bit of Devon Achane, and I love Troy Franklin too. Those 3 guys, I think, Oregon is just such a good team, and I feel like people are sleeping on them a little bit. They've been, like I said, they've been really hot recently. And, I mean, Michigan and Ohio State, sure, they're 2 big favorites. But I think the football playoffs should be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon, and I really do like Oregon.
Alrighty, so we got 2 big matchups. We got a ton on the slate for this weekend. Next up, we'll be riding our sleigh over to the outro. Thanks for watching this edition of One-on-One Sports. From all of us here, we hope you guys have a happy and healthy holidays.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at One-on-One Sports.
And for now, whose side are you on?
All right.
Come on,
see if I can
camera
hit
time.
the
Camera time.
Oh, Russell Wilson, prime. Let's ride.
Oh! Not as good as Brady.
Damn.
Darn.